everyone, Greta here. Today we are going to talk about Trikonasana, the triangle pose. That it's unimportant whether or not your hand is touching the floor. And if you are touching the floor, are you serving the purpose? Before we start, please like the video, share and comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. Alright, so Trikonasana, triangle shape. It's one of the more on the foundational shapes, so it's a lot less complex. It's very simple, but then again, I always have to say simple doesn't mean it's easy. And because it's so simple, that's why a lot of people would, not really pay too much attention to it, or maybe it's not that they are not paying attention to it, it's just that sometimes the details are neglected. Right, so now let's get into Trikonasana before we do anything. So a lot of times when people are doing triangle pose, a lot of the cues that I hear, or a lot of people that when they're doing Trikonasana, again, because it's so foundation of a pose, it's always in the sequence. So immediately they will go on the floor, or they will try to struggle for the floor and then arm up to the sky like so. And then they think that, oh, this is how it is done. Especially when some teachers, when they teach this shape, they cue it fingers on the floor, hand on the floor. So immediately they would go for the floor and just do this. And some people, when they cannot reach for the floor, they'll be they would feel quite defeated, and then they would say, oh, I can't touch, like what's the problem with me, I'm not flexible enough. Oh, your fingers can touch the floor, you are so great, you are so amazing in yoga. And is that the thing? Honestly, no. Your fingers, your hand does not have to touch the floor. Before we explain why, we have to take a few steps back and really dissect why are we doing Trikonasana, what's the purpose. Now, I'm not talking about the alignment. The alignment, there's another area that I don't want to step into, but each shape, when it's done, it has to serve a purpose. Just like tree pose, one of the purposes is to find the balance. So for Trikonasana, one of the purposes is that it's a side stretch, a side bend, just like a side bend. It's exactly the same as a side bend, except that your feet are wider, the toes of one of your foot is turned to the side, and you come to a side bend. That's all. But then again, because the arms are stretching, so a lot of times it's very convenient for the fingers to come down. And it's easier to measure because the floor is a concrete element. It's not like you lengthen your spine, you reach where I'm reaching in the air. It's harder to find where I should be. Whereas, okay, floor is there, it's definite, it's tangible, so it's a lot easier. So that's why a lot of people go here. But then, because it's a deep side bend, in order for the fingers to, or the hand to actually come to touch the floor, you have to lengthen so much that eventually your fingers actually touch the mat. So aside from the lengthening of the spine, the flexion, the side flexion of the spine, another element is the distance of your feet. If you have a longer stance, then it's, you're closer to the floor, then it's much easier to have the fingers touch the floor. Of course, if your arm is long enough, and if your arms are relatively shorter, then yeah, you have a more challenging time. And for this, when the longer stance, I can still maintain this lengthening in the side body while having the fingers touch the floor. Whereas if my stance is a lot shorter, then I'll feel less of a side body stretch. And also, you want to feel the space in your front hips. It's not about coming down to the floor and staking your butt out. Rather, try to feel the front hips flat. Not flat in the sense that it has to be like flat like a sheet of paper, but you don't want to have this front hips closing in. You want it to have space here so that when the hand, whether it's on the floor, wherever it is, you feel the space here, not there, and you feel that the side body is lengthening. Coming to a Trikonasana with a side body stretch and tension. Of course, the top side, it's no problem to feel it, but it's the bottom side. So you want to feel that lengthening. The hand has to go somewhere. And when the hand is resting on either the leg or on the block, it's so easy to just kind of collapse into it. Rather, when your arms is floating in midair, you'll be like, oh my gosh, I have to work. I have to engage my abs a little bit. My side body, the side waist need to also work a little bit. But then, there are times when you need to rest on something. So set up either block or resting on your leg if you don't have a block. But when your hand makes contact with that physical object, be it the leg or the block or the chair, you want to feel that it's pushing it away. So there's still lengthening in the side body. So wherever that top arm is, it doesn't really matter. So you want to feel the entire body in this triangle shape, that your side body gets longer, not just the top, but the bottom side as well. So the entire spine is lengthening, not collapsing down to the floor. And you feel the front hips have space. You're not closing in again. If you're not a yoga teacher, or if you are just starting your yoga practice, you might not know a lot about these things. You're like, I don't know all these details, but I just follow whatever the teacher says. Well, whenever I practice, I always want to find the space and length in my body. So if you can have these thoughts in your head when you're doing a physical yoga practice, think I want to create space and length, then that might change the way you practice. So you might be asking, so am I not allowed to have my fingers on the floor anymore? Definitely not. Your hand could touch the floor. Again, as said before, if your stance is wider, it's easier to touch because your upper body is closer to the floor. But then, you do want to lengthen in a way that when the hand is touching the floor, it's more like a byproduct of the lengthening of the spine. So you can see my fingertips are on the floor, but I still maintain this stretching in the upper body. Not like, oh my gosh, I'm on the floor. Even if, I come into a wider stance and my hand could press onto the mat, I still want to keep this part of the body a bit more spacious, lengthen the sides of the body. And then, it's doable. But again, that's not the aim. That's not the goal. The goal, the purpose is to lengthen, and wherever the hand plays, be it in air, on leg, on block, on chair, on a fence, I don't know, that's more like a byproduct. So that's for my sharing for today. Hope it's helpful to you. Please like my video, share, and don't forget to comment on the video and subscribe to my channel. If you want to practice with me, just DM me either on IG or Facebook. Should be here, and I'll get back to you ASAP. Take it easy.